You're watching this video as you can't figure out stamping. I'm going to show you everything you need to know, so let's get stamping. What's up my nerdy peeps, I hope you're having an amazing day and welcome to Nerdy Nails. Now I'm going to show you everything you need to know about stamping, so your nails are no longer looking like this and will actually look like this. But I know many of you struggle with stamping and many of you have asked for me to make a video regarding stamping. I do apologise it's taken a while because I wanted to get this perfect, as I know many people struggle, and I've actually had to refilm this video a couple of times, and I want to make sure this video covers any kind of issue you will have with stamping. So after you watch this video you should never ever struggle with stamping again. And you've come to the right place, as I would class myself as a pro stamper. Nail stamping is definitely my favourite nail art technique. I have so many plates, I have so many books filled with nail plates, and trust me guys, once you figure out how to stamp, it is a game changer in the stamping world, as any design you want you can literally have it on your fingertips. It is only a stamping plate away. So let's begin and let's get you no longer struggling for stamping your nails. So these are the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a stamping plate, you're going to need a stamper, and you're going to need a scraper. First things first, the stamper. The stamper can come in many different shapes and sizes. You can get clear ones, you can get non-clear ones, you can get big, massive, sticky marshmallow ones, you can get non-sticky marshmallow ones. Literally any idea you thought of a stamper, they've probably made it. To make your life a lot easier, just forget about all the non-clear stampers and just invest in clear stampers only, as in the long run this will make stamping a lot easier and also save you a lot of time. The reason why you want to solely invest in clear stampers is because when it comes to non-clear stampers you can't bloody see a thing with them. So when it comes to placing the design, it makes it a lot harder with the positioning, and trust me guys, the hassle is not worth it now that there is clear stampers in the game. So for a beginner, solely invest in clear stampers only. So just forget about non-clear stampers and get yourself some clear stampers if you haven't already. Once you've got confident with nail stamping, then I do recommend you add some non-clear stampers to your nail stamping collection, as when it comes to doing some cool nail stamping advanced techniques, then they're really handy to have in a stamping collection, especially the big sticky marshmallow stampers, but that's a video for another day. So how to care and look after your stampers is really important, as if you don't look after them properly, then one, they'll get damaged and it will make stamping a lot harder. You may have seen somewhere on the internet about priming the stamper with a nail buffer, but for the clear ones you don't need to do that. Don't use a buffer on a clear stamper, as you'll absolutely wreck it, as that's what I did with one of the first clear stampers I ever got, because I couldn't get it to pick up and I thought, well, maybe it needs to be buffed. Don't buff it, because the second you're buffing a clear stamper you're literally tearing the stamper and making it all cloudy and you just wreck it. Don't you dare put a little nail buffer or any form of buffing material on a clear stamper, it's just going to ruin it. And to be completely honest guys, you don't really need to prime a clear stamper. Every time I've bought a clear stamper I can pretty much get it to work straight away. Over time the clear stampers will get cloudy, as that's just the nature of wear and tear, but to keep your stamper as clear as possible and to also to make sure they still stay fairly sticky is to make sure you don't apply nail polish remover on the stamper head. By doing that you're wearing away the clearness and the kind of sticky residue that's on there to make sure the design transfer from the plate onto the stamper. Now what you do instead of applying nail polish remover on the stamper when you need to remove any excess stamping polish from the stamper is you want to use a lint roller to remove any excess nail polish on the stamper. That will keep the stamping head in use for much longer, and it's also a lot kinder to the stamper head, so you'll be able to use that stamper for years to end than a couple of months. When the time comes and your clear stamper has gotten cloudy, don't chuck it away, keep it in your collection, because the cloudy clear stampers are still handy to have in a collection when it comes to doing certain advanced nail stamping techniques, but that's a video for another day. My final thing I wanted to mention about clear stampers, if you're a big holo fan, there are clear stampers out there with holographic flakes in. They are pretty cool to look at and they are cool to do stamping with, but you just got to watch out because of the glitter flakes. It does make the visibility of these stampers a little bit harder, but if you're a big holo fan then it's definitely worth having one of these in your collection. The next topic of interest is nail plates. This is where you're going to find all the cool and funky designs, and to be honest, pretty much anything can get engraved on a nail plate. So the design you might be looking for, I'm sure it's out there on a nail plate. But one important thing to watch out when it comes to using a nail plate is if you're trying to stamp whilst the nail plate is blue, it's not going to work, since nail plates have a protective cling film on top just to protect them during shipping so they don't get scratched or damaged. So make sure you remove the blue cling film. An important tip is if the plate isn't a shiny silver, then there's a cling film on top, because you also need to watch out as well. Some nail plates have a clear transparent cling film on as well, so if it's not working, you might have a clear cling film rather than a blue cling film on top. So the motto really to go for, if the plate's not silver and shiny, there's a cling film on top, because if the clear cling film is on top, it's normally a duller matte shine than a shiny silver. Moving on to the type of nail polish you should be using while stamping. So there is a special type of nail polish out there, it's called stamping polish. This polish tends to be more pigmented in colour compared to regular polish, so the design will be much bolder and pigmented compared to using regular nail polish for the stamping. Now people do ask, can you use normal polish for stamping? And absolutely you can use normal polish, there's nothing stopping you from using it. The only problem with using regular polish, because the colour is less pigmented, when it comes to stamping the design onto the stamper, the design will be less bold, more transparent, and the colours just won't be as pigmented if you did the same design with a stamping polish. But there is a solution around this, depending on the type of polishes you have. There are quite a few regular polishes you can get away with using as stamping polish, because at the end of the day, the kind of polishes you want to look for if you can't get access to stamping polish is you want to look for nail polishes that are more pigmented in colour. A great example of this is Model Own's nail polish. Their polishes are highly pigmented and you can definitely get away with using them as a stamping polish. But I am planning to make a future video of regular polishes you can get away with stamping and how to stamp with regular polish, so I'll go into more detail about that in the upcoming video. I would recommend to use stamping polish when you can, but if you are really in a tight spot, you can get away with using regular polish. Just try and find polishes that are pigmented. When it comes to applying the polish on the plate, it's all about speed in this part. As many people ask, do you wait for the polish to dry? And the answer is no, do not let the polish dry, because if you let the polish dry, then the stamping won't work, as you need wet polish for the design to transfer. So don't sit there and let the paint dry. You want to be working on this design whilst everything is still wet. This is the same point even when you scrape the polish through the design. Don't wait for the polish to dry through the design. Stamp the design whilst the polish is still wet. This is a quick action movement. We have no time to waste. The second you scrape, you want to stamp that design over the plate as soon as possible. Moving on to scrapers. So scrapers come in many different shapes and sizes, and to be honest, it's the ones that you find the most comfortable is the ones you want to use, as you can have long flat scrapers, small tiny scrapers, you can use a credit card, you can use cardboard, you can pretty much use any type of card or plastic that is fairly stiff. The only scrapers I would say to avoid are the scrapers that have a metal ridge, as when it comes to scraping the polish away from the plate, it scratches and damages the plate. So just avoid those scrapers, as we don't want to damage our nail plates. For me, my personal favourite ones are the small plastic ones where the ridge is plastic, as I find it glides over the plate and removes the excess polish the best. But at the end of the day, it all comes to personal preference and which one you find most comfortable to use. When it comes to using the scraper on the nail plate, you don't want to press too hard when scraping the polish through the design. When using the scraper, it is a light glide over the plate. Don't press too hard, because if you scrape too hard, the polish that you want to be stuck in the design will be scraped along with all the other polish, and you won't get a clear transfer of the design. And you also want to make sure when you're scraping, you are holding the scraper in a 45-degree angle. You don't want to hold the scraper upright, as you won't get a clear scrape. You really want to scrape the polish in one clean movement. Sometimes, depending on how you scraped, you might not be able to do it in one clear movement, and that's okay. I would say you can probably get away with scraping between 1 to 4 times at a push. If you scrape anything more, the polish will start drying and you might not get a clean transfer. Just remember, at the end of each scrape, you want to remove the excess nail polish from the scraper on a cotton bud dipped in nail polish remover, so our scraper will be ready once again when we need to scrape the excess polish from the plate. When it comes to pressing the stamper over the design, again, it's just a light press and a glide over. Some people say stamping the design on top compared to rolling the design over is better, but to be honest guys, I've never really struggled with either way, so again, it just comes down to personal preference. Have a play with just rolling the stamper over the design and have a play with just stamping the stamper on top of the design, and just see what works best for you. For both methods, it's a quick movement, so you want to glide the stamper over if you're rolling it, and if you're pressing it, you just want to quickly press the stamper down and bring it back up. Don't spend too long, because if you spend too long, then the polish is going to double stamp back onto the plate and you won't get a clear transfer. Also, when it comes to using the stamper on top of the plate, make sure you are keeping your hand steady, as if you're rolling the stamper over the design and then your hand twitches or flinches and you've changed the movement of the stamper head, it could lead to the design getting distorted as you've changed the movement of the stamper head when it was rolling over the design. So that's just another thing to watch out. Once you have got the design transferred onto the stamper, the polish is still wet, so you really want to press that stamper onto your nail as quickly as possible so the design transfers clearly. If you do happen to take quite a while to press the stamper onto your nail and the design doesn't transfer because the polish on the stamper is completely dry and your nail is also completely dry, then the quick way to fix this is just apply a quick dry top coat onto your nail, wait for your nail to become tacky, and then try pressing the stamper onto your nail again and the design will transfer nicely. And finally, I just want to mention some variables that can affect stamping. So one thing that I think is pretty obvious, but it's worth mentioning anyway, make sure you apply enough polish to cover the whole design, as if you only apply a little bit of polish and then scrape and the polish isn't covering the whole design, you're not going to have a clear transfer. Also, make sure the polish is fairly fresh. If you're using old polish, the polish is going to dry a lot quicker, so when it comes to stamping, you might not get a clear transfer as the polish has already dried. And then finally, check the quality of the nail plate. If you have followed all these tips and tricks and the design still isn't stamping, it might just be you have a bad plate, that the designs have been poorly engraved, as I have a plate here where half the design is missing. So if you try and stamp, you're not going to get the full design as the plate is poorly engraved. So that's just another thing to watch out. And there you guys have it. That's everything you need to know about stamping and all the do's and don'ts when it comes to stamping. If you are struggling with stamping, it's going to be one of these variables I mentioned in the video to why you're struggling. If you have followed all of my advice and you still can't get it to stamp, it still will be one of these variables, and my best advice is to break down each factor of the stamping and have a test with each variable and figure out which variable is affecting your stamping success. Stamping is very much like science. You need to hypothesize, figure out the variables, test it, and come to the conclusion on which variables are affecting your stamping success. Trust me guys, if you needed to write a science essay, I'm pretty sure you could get away with stamping being a topic, because there's so many variables affecting why you might not be succeeding in stamping. And if you treat this like a science experiment, you will never have problems with stamping again. And that is everything for today's video. Leave this video a like now that you will no longer struggle with stamping. If you struggle with any other nail art techniques, leave a comment down below and I will make a video on how to fix these problems. And just remember guys, keep being awesome, keep being amazing, and I will see you in the next nail art video. Bye!